Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Ryan Mock, Storm Chaser. It is Thursday, May 27th, 2021. I wanted to go over some images of radar that I saved from the Selden, Kansas EF1 tornado event this last Monday, May 24th. It unfortunately did do some damage in town, but luckily nobody was seriously injured, and it looked like they kind of lucked out. The tornado weakened considerably before it hit town. When we got back to the hotel that night, we ended up myself and Shane Ornalis ended up near, oh god, where were we? We ended up staying in Colby, Kansas, at a little Comfort Inn, and I looked at my computer and noticed that GR3, or otherwise known as Gibson Ridge, was still open, and I was able to backtrack all the radar images for a pretty good amount of time. So I decided I would throw those together now and also correlate those with some footage of the actual tornado event, so you could kind of see what footage correlates with what point on the radar. And yeah, I think it's pretty interesting. So let's get into it. So again, this is Gibson Ridge 3, or GR level 3, whatever you want to call it. It has Allison House radar data. So just to forward, all these GPS dots and my GPS location is not accurate at this point. That's just a last known location for all of those different GPS locations when they finally shut the computer off. So that's not going to correlate. But anyway, going through here. So this is the Supercell, just about maybe 3 or 4 miles northeast of Colby, Kansas. As it was tracking northeast, didn't look all that impressive, I guess, at that time. I didn't think. Although it was definitely discrete, it definitely had a little bit of broad, albeit at the time weak, mesocyclonic rotation and a good hail course. So it was kind of the only game in town, so I decided to go after it. So at this point, it's not really tornadic, but if you look at the velocity scan on the right side of the screen, you can see there is a little bit of broad mesocyclonic rotation that's kind of correlating with that little bit of a hook appendage like reflectivity in the left side of the screen there. Next, so here we have, it is now tornado warned again. The NWS saw that and decided to throw a warning on it. Again, at this time, it is kind of weak, but definitely getting its act together. As you can see in this footage here, this is about the time this was recorded. Mezzo's really getting its act together. Shortly after this time, I pulled up and saw a weak funnel appear out of the mezzo and then went back up. At this time, it was really starting to kind of pique my interest, obviously. I think it was just pulling more inflow. So going forward here, looking at the radar, it kind of looks a little messy, but if you notice, it does, the whole thing, the whole morphology kind of twists it a little bit. At this point, honestly, I thought the wall cloud looked a lot more impressive. This shot coming up here, that's a beautiful wall cloud with a good inflow tail. It's definitely starting to get more occluded. You sped this next clip up here, you can really start to see the spin in this thing. It was really starting to get. This is 3 times faster, but being that it was getting kind of rainy where I was at, I decided to go back south and try to get a better road. And then I noticed that a new mezzo was forming to the south. If you notice the radar, this appendage is getting a little stronger, a little more defined there. In this shot, I do look at my radar. As you can see, it's correlating with the radar image on the screen. And the velocity really started to pick up there as well. Right around this time, I looked to the west, and you can see there in the shot, the elephant trunk tornado started to appear. So then eventually that dissipated, went back on the main road to go northeast a little bit. You can see the radar image does change here a little bit. At this time, we're a lot of us are just kind of parked on this wall call. It's really cranking up, and it's pretty much just about to drop. You notice in velocity scans, it is tightening up in the little part right there. You got some bright greens and blues right next to some reds just above that Rexon or whatever town it is. And after that point, see in the next shot here, you got a funnel fully condensed, and it is on the ground at this time. It was called in as a confirmed tornado by one of us out there. The next This is when it really started to get very strong. I really wish I could have got more footage of that part there, but I had RFD wind and rain actively coming inside the car, all over my camera, all over everything. So I had to cut that short. But that was the money shot in my opinion. Well, it was almost the money shot in my opinion. Going forward. So you can kind of see this lower bowl appendage. We're still debating if whether or not that was actually in contact with the ground at any point in time. At one point, it really looked like it was, and I thought that that was going to turn into a wedge tornado. You see here going forward, it's very. I mean, it's if it ain't on the ground, it's darn close. And there's definitely a correlating uptick in the morphology of that hook echo as well as the velocities. You can't really see 'cause, moving forward in the frame on the radar, you can see the hook intensifying again. This little shape here, I would like to know if someone could know that that was on the ground. You know, for sure, right at this point, we do for sure have one on the ground, as evident by the ground swirl. That other one is pretty close, and there's kind of an unsaid rule: if your funnel is like more than halfway down from the cloud deck, it is more than likely on the ground. And then you have some semis going barreling towards it, thinking, I mean, I don't know if they thought maybe they'd get around it or something. I don't know. I wonder if one of these guys is not the one of the semis was found flipped over. You got a little brief, little skinny tornado, partially decondensed in the middle, but good ground swirl on the ground. Kind of love that shot. Then the next part here is the raw cloud's just kind of reorganizing. It's just recirculating, regenerating. Still very strong hook echo on radar there, and then it plants a stovepipe tornado. Excuse me, within mere seconds. At this point, it's multi-vortex. It's probably one of my second favorite shot of the day. And then the RFD really started to pick up there with a lot of rain and partially obscuring the view at this point. My viewfinder in the video gets very green and a little foggy. Going forward here, the multi-vortex is still going on. You can see up there in the radar, the hook is now coming to a complete circle. The velocity is very bright, contrasting colors. I haven't measured what that couplet actually ended up being, but it's clearly very high enough to throw down a tornado. Then at this point, it throws down again. At this point, I believe it just started to touch the outskirts of Selden. At this frame time in the video is on, you can see on radar there. The very center of the velocity couplet is in Selden, Kansas. I believe it was being impacted at this time. Total damage done. I think I went through the next day. They had a roof gone off, a couple things. A grain silo was removed from its foundation and blown across the town in a southeasterly track. Looks like it impacted a roof of a pole barn and then came laid to rest in somebody's backyard. There was a nice little piece of metal wrapped around a telephone pole on its way out to that field. That was pretty interesting to see. So yeah, going forward here, then we have then the law enforcement showed up. It's kind of a interesting clip. The tornado, you can see the tornado in the background there, so kind of impacting the northern outskirts of Selden. Although I kind of wonder if that isn't a new circulation altogether there. The velocity kind of shows it's just one, but if you look like just to the north of that, kind of looks like it correlates a little bit. What would be the north side of town there? And this guy, I mean, he's not wrong, but right here, the hand on the gun. Come on, dude. What really? I don't know. I won't get into that. I kind of see both sides of the coin. I mean, look, I don't. If a cop's blocking I mean, look at that tornado in the background, right in town, right? If a cop's blocking the road during an active tornado actively hitting the town, yeah, that's warranted. He's in the rights. But the hand on the gun thing, in my opinion, was a little off the rails there. But you know what? From what I hear, he was a local sheriff. He's probably pretty upset. He probably knows people in that town, and he's not as excited about this as we are. That being said, we don't like things hitting towns either, for God's sakes. But I just think all in all, the emotions were high, and I don't really hold that against the guy. So there's that. Selden, Kansas, 5/24, 2021. Here's a great shot taken by a photographer by the name of Jeff Boyce. You should definitely go find him on Twitter and follow him. His work is phenomenal. He got a shot of myself there in the black Xterra in the center, and on the right is Shane Ornelas. We kind of tag team a lot of storms when we go out chasing. We're both from North Dakota. I love this shot. I'm gonna get this thing framed, I think. Yeah, it's just that's going in my living room. The wife disagrees, but that's okay. It's one of those things that I'll eventually win. And she'll walk by that picture and roll her eyes and hate it, but that's okay because I love it. Anyway, yeah, there's my synopsis for the whole chase. I just thought I'd share that with you guys. I found that kind of interesting. It's rare that on a chase I actually remember to save those types of images, and which is largely why I think I'll just stick using Gibbs and Ridge for chases rather than the app-based software, because can't really do that as easily on those. But aside from that, thanks for watching. Hope everybody stays safe. Talk to you soon.